All right, here we go. This is page 2 of the section 2.4 notes. First things first, we have our statements and our reasons. So every time we do a proof, sorry, that looks bad. You need to write out your statements and your reasons. You need to make that T-chart. All right, so every proof that we do is going to look like this. All right, except for one section, but we're not going to worry about that right now. All right, step one, you can always get step one on your statements and your reasons. That's just the given information. What do we know? What is this proof telling us? We have to have something given to us, otherwise we can't really move forward. And what they're telling us in this picture is that line A and line B are parallel. Our goal here, our goal is to show angle 1 is congruent to angle 5. Now, angle 1 and angle 5 are alternate exterior angles. If you were paying attention in the last section, we said that those are congruent. That was just a theorem that we had. I'm going to try to prove that angle 1 and angle 5 are congruent without using that theorem, trying to do other means, because there are several different ways to do these types of problems. And that's very frustrating. So when you and your neighbor are kind of comparing your answers on your homework and you're getting two totally different things, that does not mean that one of you is wrong. All right. So just kind of keep that in mind, because the way I do this could be completely different than the way someone else does it. All right. So I'm going to try to do this the most efficient way, but I might be able to eliminate a step here or there, but the way we do it should work. So let's see here. We have written down A and B are parallel. We know that because that's just the given information. Now, we have to look at the picture and kind of figure out what are some things that we can deduce. And the first thing I see is angle 1. If you look at angle 1 is congruent to angle 7. Right? Why do we know? Why do we know angle 1 and angle 7 are congruent? Well, we know that because those are vertical angles. Remember, vertical angles are the ones that are kind of across from the x. All right, angle 1 and 2 are a linear pair, but angle 1 and angle 7 are vertical. So since they're vertical, we know they are congruent. All right, well now we need to try to kind of jump over to the other intersection. So we're still on that the left intersection point. We need to get over to the left one somehow. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say angle 7 is congruent to angle 5. That's going to be my next step here. All right, angle 7 is congruent to angle 5. All right, now how do we know that one? Well, we know angle 7 and angle 5 are corresponding angles. So let's just kind of see where we are. We said angle 1 equals angle 7. And then we said angle 7 equals angle 5. So actually what we can do now is we can use the transitive property to say, all right, angle 1 equals angle 5. And that's the very last thing I'm going to do here. I'm going to say angle 1 is congruent to angle 5. Why do we know that? We know that from the transitive property. And actually, this proof is done. The proof wants us to show that angle 1 and 5 are congruent, and that's exactly what we did. We showed it without using the alternate exterior angle theorem, right? We used it with vertical angles and alternate interior. And corresponding angles. All right, we could have done this proof a totally different way. There's about 16,000 ways we could do this, and that's just one of the ways that I noticed. We could do this in 4 steps. We could have done it in 6 steps if we wanted to. But that's just how we do these things. All right, so let's just take a look at another one. If we look at this picture, we have kind of this hashtag looking symbol going on. We are trying to go from angle 1 to angle 11. All right. So one thing I want to mention, angle 1 and angle 11 are not corresponding angles. So if we have two parallel lines, those are corresponding angles because they're kind of in the same position. All right. However, if we look at this one right here, angle 1 and angle 11 are not corresponding angles because they don't have a line in common at all. So on a proof like this, we're going to have to go from 1 to 2. Angle 1 and angle 2 are corresponding. Angle 2 and angle 11 are corresponding angles. So we can say angle 1 equals angle 11 using the transitive property. All right, so that's going to be kind of the idea of this proof. So we need to jump from 1 to 11 somehow, and we have to kind of connect the dots in there. All right, so let's just go ahead and do that. We have our statements. I'm going to abbreviate statements, and we have our reasons. All right, so step 1, we have two pieces of given information. So we have line A and B are parallel, and line H and K
through R to the theater.
I'm gonna try that again.
Freshman last name H through R to the theater.
All right, that is just given. All right, now step 2. We're trying to show two angles are congruent. So what I would recommend is pick two angles you know for certain are congruent. So I'm going to go with angle 1 is congruent to angle, we'll go angle 3 this time. So I'm going to say angle 1 is congruent to angle 3. All right. So I'm kind of making the jump there. How do we know that? We have to think about which angle pair are those. These are corresponding angles. Now, step 3. Remember, we're trying to get to 11. So you got to think, can I go from angle 3 to angle 11? And as a matter of fact, we can, because angle 3 and angle 11 are corresponding angles. So those are also congruent. Right. So we are allowed to use corresponding twice. You can use any steps, any amount of times you need. I can use corresponding 3 or 4 times if I really wanted to. It doesn't matter. We can reuse reasons whenever we want. All right. So now, step 4, keep in mind, what are we trying to do? We're trying to get from 1 to 11. So we went from angle 1 to angle 3, and then we went from angle 3 to angle 11. All right. So again, using the transitive property, we can say angle 1 equals angle 11. And this one is actually going to be done. Angle 3, how about this? Angle 1 is congruent to angle 11. Right? And again, that is the transitive property. And there we have it. Now, there's a bunch of different ways we could have done this proof. So why don't I show you a different way? Just to make a point. We have our statements, and we have our reasons. All right, so the last one we did, totally fine. If you're watching this video without headphones, you're probably going to be really confused why I started over. So this is given. All right, let's do it in a different way. We need to go from angle 1 to angle 11. So you should always start with one of those two angles. So step 2, angle 1. I'm going to say angle 1 is congruent to angle 6. Right? Why do we know that? Well, we know these are vertical angles. All right. So now, what can we do? I'm going to go from 6 to 9. Right? So step 3, angle 6 is congruent to angle 9. Why do I know that? Because angle 6 and angle 9 are alternate interior angles. Right. So now maybe I can go from 9 to 14. All right, so step 4. Angle 9 is congruent to angle 14. Why do I know that one? Well, those are also vertical angles. Right? And the last one I can do is I can go from 14 to 11. So step 5, angle 14 is congruent to angle 11. And why do we know that one? Those are alternate interior angles. All right. So let's just kind of look at this. We've kind of made a chain here. So we went from angle 1. We said angle 1 equals angle 6. We said angle 6 equals angle 9. Angle 9 equals angle 14. And angle 14 equals angle 11. All right, so the very last thing we can do here, since these are all equal to each other, we can connect the first one with the last one. All right, so we can finish this off with a 6th step, and we can say angle 1 is congruent to angle 11. Why do we know that? We know that from the transitive property. All right. Go. That one is finished. So there are a ton of different ways to do these proofs. The first one was definitely more efficient than the second one. All right, but this one is a little bit longer, but it's still 100% correct. So if you did this, you would get 100% of the points on that problem. If you did the previous one in 4 steps, right, it's still correct. You would get 100% of the problems, right? I don't care how many steps it takes you, as long as you get from point A to point B, right? And there's no breaks in the logic, right? Every single one of these reasons goes with each one of these statements. It's the correct reason for the statement. Doesn't matter how long it takes. As long as you get there, that's kind of what I'm looking for. All right. So I think I have one more page here of the notes. So that means I'm going to have one more video. All right. So see you guys in the last one.